Okay, this is a tutorial on taking care of the data at the end of scan stuff. Last time I did this, my hair was not this long, so this is an interesting change in time over the summer. But let me share screen first. I'm going to share a couple parts of the process. Can't really show you this part because that's all supposed to be done when you're at the scan. So I'm going to be basically starting from here. So first we need to open the master scan document. I believe this is, I don't even know if I'm sharing the right screen. Let me double check that. Yes, I'm sharing the right one. So you need to, well, the protocol is in here in Abbott Lab manuals and protocols, scan spectralizer, and then scan protocol in lab. And then it's this one, still working on it to update it because it hasn't been updated in like a year and a half. But that's where all the information is found. So the first step is to get the master scan document open. And for that, you go to data, scan downloads lab, and then master scan. I'm going, Sarah is doing scan stuff right now, so I'm gonna, oops. Where's duplicate? There's not a duplicate option right there, so I'm just going to do that. Just so people know not to mess with this one. So you'll need to open this. This is the master scan document. Yeah. So this is the file path to get to that. And like it says right here, and like we saw, there are both of these two different master scan documents. So what you would need to do is go into them and see what data is missing between both of them. Just looking at the sizes, it looks like there's more data in this master scan versus this one. Two documents are created when two people are looking at it and changing things and saving it at the same time. We try to avoid that at all costs just because it can lead to missing data when we should have the data. But regardless, if that does happen, just go into them, look at the most recent stuff, see if there's anything missing, or if one just has like more updated stuff from a more recent scan that's been run and everything's been input. And then solve that, figure out which one has all the data, then delete the extra one and make sure that it's just named master scan and not with this epithet right here. But we're using this test master scan just to show you stuff that we're going to be doing. Then, yeah, so you want to open the master scan document. Do that. Okay. And then you also want to open the most recent CSV that you just downloaded onto the green USB. That's the last step over here. Like when you're not the last step, but when you're downloading right here, you want to get this data file, well, the correct data file from the ones it downloads, and open that on the green USB. So what you want to do is go to the green USB, go to results, lab unit Abbott, and then modify it by date. Usually it's not like this where like everything has been modified on the same date. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is like this, but it's easy enough to figure out what you're looking for. So if we're looking for the one that was done on June 1st of 2021, that's the one that you need to open. But there's usually 3 files for each time the scan is run. There's one that doesn't have like this log attached to it and is the same. So like this is the base, and then there's one where it's that base plus log. And then there's a third one where it says it's like the spectralizer specific data. It has a little bit of a different beginning, but it adds on the serial number of the scan that's being run, being used, and then the date and time and stuff just like up there. And then it has FP at the end. So you don't want either of these two, you want just this one, the short one. Usually when you sort by date modified, it will just come up with the 3. Like if these were all the same day, it'll come up with like these 3 for the same day. But that's not the case right now for some reason. Regardless, you want to choose the one that doesn't have the log. So it's pretty easy to just, if this does happen, sort by name, and then find the, this is 2018, find the day that you're looking for. I was going for 0601. No, I want 2021. Oops. No. I'm doing a great job right now. Okay, 0601. So you want this one, not that one. And then open that. And it looks like this. More often than not, you run more than 4 samples. These are the samples right here. And so it's usually longer than this. Like if we go to, this one looks longer. Yeah, so you can see there's more samples that were run there, which is more typical. These are more reflective of runs that were done right after someone got back from the field or something. But when you get to that, this is step 19. You highlight column A, go to data, move my little Zoom video thing. Click text to columns, and then make sure delimited is clicked. Delimited means that there's a character that will indicate each column, and in this case they are semicolons. You can see one right there, one right there, one right there, one right there, and that just goes on for the entire essentially all the data values are just in this first column, and we're trying to separate them out into different columns for a second. So click delimited, click next, unclick tab, and click semicolon. And then you can see a data preview down here, and you can see that everything is now being turned into its own column. And that's what we want. So you hit next, or you can hit finish from that last step. It doesn't matter, because then you can't hit next again, so you hit finish. That separates everything out into their individual columns. The next step is to fill out part of the master scan. So you go down to the very bottom where stuff needs to be input. and you've got all of these columns. I will use top row. That'll just make it easier to interpret all of this stuff. So you've got the sort chem, the date that it was run, the time that the sample was processed according to the scan. And then you've got the 4 parameters measured on just the scan console. And then over here is, well, we'll get to that. So typically you would, I don't know what the sort chems are for this. All I know is that there are 4. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, so say these are the 4 sort chems that we're dealing with. You need to type those in. Then theoretically, that's the only thing that you need to type in. For instances where there are not very many samples run, like in this case, there's only 4. Because we have all of this stuff recorded on the notebook for the scan, you can just type all of this out. But when you get to ones where you are like doing a massive, let's see, here's 16. This was a synoptic run, like that's 77 samples. It can be a big pain to have to type in everything. So what I'm about to do can help make that go a lot faster. So normally for short samples, you just type in everything and then you get the timestamp from right here. And you just copy and then paste right there. And then you type in the rest of the results that are on the scan notebook. However, you can save a lot of time by doing it this other way. So the other way is to type in all of the sort chems. And that can take a while. Sometimes I'll write, if you know Excel, you can write some other small like text functions to populate this a little faster, but that takes the longest. And then after you've typed in all the sort chems, you can do a couple things. And that's where I need to add them to this protocol. Mary is calling me. I'm going to pause this real quick. Stop share. Be back in a second. Okay. Let's share all this again. So yeah, I don't have all the command stuff in the protocol. I am going to try and put all of that in because I have done a similar thing for the EAMS. Fixing my hair. I've done a similar thing for the EAMS where I put in all of the commands and stuff, so it's really easy to replicate over and over again. And I'm going to do that into this eventually. But write down the sort chems, and then the first step is to copy and paste in this timestamp like we just did for the other quote unquote method that I just talked about. And then if you go to the protocol folder, I have put in this text file that was previously just on my personal box. That's master scan commands. And on this, Oh, so I do have some information on making the sort chems faster in this. Essentially, like almost like except for like January through sometimes March, usually just February, where the years are generally the same. Like the years are generally the same. The first 4 digits are usually the same for like 10, 11 months of the year. So you can usually just do like a concat function. You could do concat like 2021 dash, and then do like, I don't know where we are on there, but like make a temporary column and just have that where you type in the last 4 of the sort chem. And that would be a quick way to take away like 5/9 of the work of typing in the sort chems into here. So what you could do is just do like this equals concat 2021. Oops. I don't like Excel. So concat 2021 dash, and then do this, and then copy and paste that down. You can just type in the last 4 of the sort chem over and over and again, and that takes away the 2021 dash part. And then at the end, you just need to make sure to copy and then paste values, and that replaces what was once the function. If you click on the cell, you can see it's a function. That's how Excel is interpreting it. But if you copy it and then paste values, it takes the output of that function and replaces it. So that is now a static sort chem number instead of a function that depends on right here. So none of these are changing anymore. So that's one way to speed up the sort chem stuff. This right here is something I did for if it was 2020 versus 2021. So 2020, 2021. This is just like if the last I don't need to explain this. If you want to use it, you can. This is just stuff that I use to do the sort chems. It's the least important. What's important, most important, is this stuff. So what you want to do is, so you don't have to type out the date and time, is you can just extract it from here, and that way we know it does match up. Because the reason we get this stuff and copy it from the green USB, these results from the scan, and paste it on here is because in the database, the way we can link the different samples from the raw scan data is from these timestamps and date, like the date and time. And that's why we need to make sure that we write down the time on the scan instead of the actual time, because we all know that the scan doesn't actually reflect the current time, because that's how the system identifies what a sample is at a certain time and date, and it doesn't have input for sort chems and stuff like that. So to avoid like having to paste this all in and then double check that it was right over here, you can just copy and paste the timestamp in here, and then either type in the values that are right here into these columns, or use functions to separate them. So I believe the one I copied was for time. So what you want to do is paste that function into the column, the cell that you want for time. And then within these brackets, you want to delete that and then click the timestamp column. So I should make that call Q. And then you can just drag that down. For the date, I don't know why that's date isn't in here. It's very similar. Put that in front. Okay. For the date, it can be, oops. Well, there's a couple different ways of doing it. I don't remember. I don't know why I didn't write it down, but one way to do it is through the format as well. So delete that, click the timestamp column, and then instead of hours, hours, minutes, minutes, we want it to be, let's see, month, day, year. And then you can copy and drag that down. So it was month, day, and you want all 4 Ys because that means 4-digit years instead of just like doing 6121. That would be 2 Ys. So we want 4 Ys. So that is that. And then again, once you've done all of these functions, make sure to copy them all and then click paste values so that it is no longer a function that relies on this. So if we change this, these don't change. Whereas, oops. Whereas before, it now changes. And it can't even interpret that, but you get the point. Oops. Cool. So that's done. So now all you have to do is enter in these values. And again, instead of typing out each and every one of the 77 samples that we do for synoptic or whatever, you come back to this page and it has, in addition to the timestamp, all the other data for turbidity, NO3, TOC, and DOC, just going straight across. And the way Excel handles things when you're copying and pasting from one sheet to another or whatever is if there are spaces in between all of these when you copy them, when you paste them, it'll paste them all right next to each other and take the spaces in the columns away. So you don't need to do them individually, theoretically. If you don't remember some of the shortcuts, it's not a big deal. Because doing them one by one is not a big deal or difficult. But there is a way to just copy them all at once. So what I do is click the top value of turbidity, hit Control, Shift, and then the down arrow key, and that will highlight this entire column. And this is kind of underwhelming for just 4 observations, but when you have something with 77, it can take you all the way down here. So at that point, you just need to scroll all the way back up, then hold Control and click the top value again. Then continue holding Control, hold Control Shift, and then down again. Scroll to the top, hold Control and click, and Control Shift down. Scroll up, Control, click, Control Shift down, and then Control C or right click copy. I always do Control C. And then right click paste or Control V, and it pastes them all into the right columns. And then you would theoretically be done. So instead of having to type out all of these columns manually for 77 sample synoptic, we just copied and pasted it. So it was a lot shorter. Yeah. A couple other notes. We don't really use these columns anymore. We realized it wasn't very accurate. So we stopped doing it, but the data is still there. This column should be filled out. It's usually just one unless otherwise specified. So in some instances, you'll run a sample, usually from like a place that just had like a burn scar that was washed out, like that just happened like last week or the week before at starvation. The fire that was there a couple months ago, finally, that burn scar finally got like its first like significant rain and dumped tons of sediment into the stream. And so you'll often get results in those cases where you get like one NaN or all of them are NaN, including turbidity. And in those cases, you have to dilute them. The dilution notes are up here, so people should know how to do it. If there isn't, like, I'm assuming they just didn't rerun this one. They should have, but they didn't. Whenever there's an NaN, we try and dilute because it's easy to account for. But if there are no notes or dilution factors in here, it's just one. So you just copy and paste one all the way through these values. And usually when they, well, not always, more often for Aqualog, when they dilute, they'll write notes. But sometimes they'll write notes on whether like it was sometimes, yeah, so right here, diluted 1-to-1. If something got frozen before it was run, that matters. Frozen, we had an issue with one of the UVU guys who was doing things wrong the first few times we worked with him. And so he was filtering the wrong bottles. And so we ran them on the scan without realizing they were already filtered. And then sometimes we just redo them because we're not sure if we ran them or not, or we thought something was wrong, stuff like that. And so when you're copying and pasting in these things, you also do need to know if you did redo stuff, because people don't always record both like this. More often than not, you just record the updated one. So you'll need to know when you skipped things, because this will appear on the raw data. But if it's not written in a notebook, and it doesn't need to be theoretically, you just have to know which lines on here to skip. Say like this one was rerun right here because something was wrong. You would need to know to just do these, to just copy these ones over and then paste them over. Other way you can do it is to copy and paste everything and then just delete the whole line once you're over here. Like you could just, if you do have it in here, you could just copy, delete. I mean, right click, delete, not copy, delete. And that would take care of that. Let's see. Yeah, so copy timestamps, compare timestamps. Yeah, so this is the double checking that if you did manually write down everything, that it does match this. Yeah, so after everything's copied and pasted in, you want to make sure you hit save, Control S or up here. Then after you're done with it, exit out of the master scan. I usually go back and, oops, that's the wrong one. Master scan, test master scan. I usually open it back up and go all the way to the bottom and look at if things saved correctly or if something glitched out and just didn't save. It's usually fine, but it's just a good thing to double check. So everything was fine. All the random zeros and stuff that were in here from the functions have now defaulted out because it's a CSV and not an Excel file. And we do that intentionally. This should always be a CSV. So then you can exit out of the master scan again, which I've already done. And then when you exit out of the raw scan data, click Don't Save. We want them in the raw format. The data tiger can essentially do that entire process of delimiting the files by itself. So you don't need to do it. We don't need to save it. And in fact, it's worse to save it after you've done the delimiting stuff. We want it in its raw form. These, those notes are, after I've written down, if I did write everything down manually, I'll highlight all of these columns, right click, then hide. And that just makes it easier for looking at the times and the dates between all of these columns really quickly. Then to undo that, you highlight around this little bulge thing right here, right click, and then click on hide, and it's all back to normal. Yeah, close it. So close the scan file and don't save it. We want to keep the data how it was. It's raw form. And then save the master scan, make sure it's updated on Box. And then you want to put it into Data Tiger. Need to add that because Brian just got his master's defended, so he's probably not going to be able, well, he'll be at BYU for his PhD, but Zach Eliason is now the new Data Tiger master. But yeah, then you want to put master scan onto Data Tiger. There might be, I don't know if there's a tutorial on uploading stuff to Data Tiger. Data Tiger. No, there isn't. That would be a good one to upload eventually. But yep, that's it. So just make sure everything's saved and do all the necessary double checking and stuff. I'm not going to bother saving that because it was a piece of junk that I just messed with. So yeah, that is that. If you have any questions, just ask me or refer to this video. I'm going to put a link to this video in the protocol. So if you just get on Box, you'll be able to right click, like hold control, then click the link, and that'll take you to this video so you won't have troubles finding it. Yeah.